Hey everybody, it's Bruce again. Another plein air adventure going on today. It's a little cloudy. Got some nice cloud action going on. I want to work on that again. And I'm in a big field over here by the college campus. They own a lot of land so you can hike around, check things out. So that's what I did. Found this spot. I'll pan around and show you what we're dealing with today. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do so. Check out other cool videos. And I'm going to be working on an 8x10 panel today that has a textured kind of canvas board attached to it. I'll explain that later. So let's get started. Okay, here's the view that I'll be painting. Kind of right in straight ahead with that tree sticking up. So you get some nice overlapping shapes. But here's the whole, came from down over there. And I've hiked up to there before and looked out, and you can see over these trees behind me. And I did a plein air painting of that a while ago called The View Beyond, I believe it was called. I'm not sure. You have to check out the channel. But yeah, nice peaceful spot. And the clouds will be shifting in and out, changing shapes, and we'll do the best to capture some interesting shapes and get a painting going here.
Hey everybody, it's Bruce. Just going to be doing a little mix here in this video of voiceover, and you'll have some actual commentary from on site. Let me know what you think of doing the on site commentary. Sometimes it's very windy and you won't be able to hear me speak, so that's why I think the voiceovers are better. But let me know. Okay, usually I block in with just burnt umber, but lately I've been experimenting with mixing a little bit of thinned out local tones of the subject, like say yellow tree, I get some yellow on there. Green grass, I get some grass, some green tones on there. So when I build on them later, I can get the thicker paint, because sometimes in the past the umber layers have still been a little damp when I go back over them with the color, and it can disrupt the actual color I'm trying to achieve. So just knocking in the tree line. Focal point's going to be, of course, that tree on the left. And so kind of hard at this low vantage point to create depth in a painting. I tend to use scale a lot as opposed to aerial perspective. It depends on the scene, of course, but that's what I tend to try to do to affect that feeling of distance. And sometimes I'm successful, and sometimes I need to do like really cool down the colors to create that feeling. Here I am knocking in the little bit of the grass, trying to keep the most saturation right near my focal point. As it moves away later on, you'll see I change that up a bit on the edges, so that's not as saturated, of course. And trying to keep the brush work loose and such. There I'm showing you the brush I'm going to be using to get the sky going. Trying to keep the brushes of kind of a moderate size so I don't get caught up in detail too soon, trying to get the essence of the scene in quickly. So now we'll move on to some commentary here in a few moments. I'll let you see me block in some sky.
Now what I'm trying to do is where I see patches of color, I'm just trying to quickly arrest the shape that I see at that moment because the clouds are going in and out. So I just try to put some approximate local color there, and I can adjust that later. I'm not too greatly worried about edges at the moment, just trying to get spots of color to get the feel, the essence of the scene. And in some of this I'm using the cobalt blue, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, just varying different applications there to arrive at different tones.
Now continuing with the blocking in of the sky, constantly shifting on me, so I was trying to find parts I liked and put that in there to suggest the feeling of the scene. And later on I'll decide to just look for more general shapes of the clouds, the light, middle tone, and dark, and then manipulate those later. You'll see me just blocking in that big group of dark clouds now.
So I'm just kind of scumbling the paint, and if it mixes a little with the sky, it's okay. I'm creating a ethereal kind of quality to the leaves right now, and later on I'll build on that with a little stronger, more opaque strokes over that. Just want to get that feeling of the tree, how it's shaped. Very lightly holding my brush, just kind of dabbing, getting some paint thickness on the brush so when I dab it, you can actually have some color coming off and a little stronger here and there.
Just working on the tree some more. And at the base of the tree, as in the picture, you see like some bush or something growing near the trunk. I chose to eliminate that because it's just too distracting and confusing. So I just wanted kind of showing the trunk, so I don't want the scene cut off. So that's what I'm going to be working on now. Just a little bit of highlights here and there on the distant trees, varying the saturation, the value, and that sort of thing. Liking how the sky's progressing so far. Just working some more in the tree area, trying to dab in some color. Very lightly holding the brush. I'm not like pushing too much. Just trying to push enough to get the paint to come off. Other times I'll load up a lot of paint on the brush and then just dab it on there. Just cleaning up some lines, softening some edges. Little touches here and there for right now. Just trying to vary some brush strokes and trying to use the texture of the surface to assist me in creating effects of the grass. Now I'm going to work on putting a few sky holes in the tree shape just to break it up a bit. Can we get away with a couple at a time? It's definitely was starting to mix in on the green on me a bit. It's pushing a little too much. Didn't have enough of that paint of the sky on there. Gives a sort of nice effect on the edges of the leaves, but definitely want some, I don't want it to muddy the sky color. So I'll pick up some more, mix up some more sky and apply it more dense over that. Building back and forth, going back and forth, using two different brushes sometimes to achieve. Cutting around the tree trunk, cutting around shapes. Other shapes would be softer edged, just to create some variety. I think it makes it more interesting. Just manipulating the color around the tree. See, I tried to soften up that white brush mark and had the sky color in there. You want to watch out for that. Really like the lightness in the sky near the horizon. Of course, you would usually have that anyway, but because of the storm clouds, I think it adds a nice drama, accentuating that. getting some more intenser blues to show that the distant sky where the storm is not, because the clouds are in different places, trying to get that effect. And now in a few moments we'll be moving back to live commentary, starting on the tree trunks.
Now as I'm applying these tree trunks and such, I'm very lightly, I have a very light touch holding my brush, and as I start the top, very touching it just a little bit, letting it mix a little bit. Then as I get lower, I apply more pressure and pull it down. And yes, it picked up some sky there, and you can go back over that with a little bit of your darker trunk paint, as I'm doing now, to reestablish that trunk. So I got in the key. I'm not looking for an exact copy here, just suggestion of the tree, of the essence. Just kind of creating a few trunks like that and limbs.
Just some more putting in, working on the limbs. Just adjusting those, getting them in there.
I pick up more paint as I make a stroke like that, and it drifts off through all that wet paint. Wiped off a little bit of that excess, dipped back into my tree trunk color, and then I'll do another one. Repeat that process. Don't keep going back over it. You'll make everything milky.
You definitely don't want to make stuff milky, so I'm going to try to avoid that for sure. Lose your saturation and your color and that sort of thing. Just always picking up more paint and putting more paint on. Just keep repeating that process. Be diligent.
Trying to find the essence of this pine tree over here. The way the limbs of the tree grow, they kind of swoop up. Getting a little sky color in there. Wipe off your excess. I'm not continuously cleaning it in terps either, because I think that'll make the paint too watery and that sort of thing. I'm adding a touch of my liquid impasto to my mixture. Create some thicker strokes, lay them on there. Make a decision, plant and pull. That's what I call it, plant and pull. You can only get 1 or 2 strokes out, then you got to pick up more paint because you're messing around with wet paint down there. So some of it you don't mind if it edges kind of go into the background a bit. I like that dark shape offset. And just so I don't have one lone pine tree, like you have two, you have the primary actor here, so to speak, and then the secondary. I'm just going to add another hint of a spruce tree behind that. So then there's a trio, but also this, I just don't like singular items. I think they attract attention to one another. So we'll do the other one. Even though there's not one in the scene, I'm going to put one, say, kind of in the back there. Just suggest wiping off the brush, and at a certain point you need to take a dip into the terp just a little bit. Get out that excess. You don't want that extra liquid in the paint. Just suggesting another, just a few marks. Now I'm getting out the complete color because I want to use this one brush for the bits of sky that I'm going to cut in. Make a stroke and I wipe the brush. Wipe the brush, excess. wipe the brush, and I'll fix that because a little bit of sameness going on with the shape. Just a little bit there. Now getting back some of the dark. Try to break that shape up just a bit. You got to be careful because you planted a little thickness of the sky color there. That's good. I like that. Break up this shape a little. A little cooler blue there, blue-green. Add a little interest. Pure ultramarine. A little bit cad red and cad yellow. Cut back over that. Pull up a little bit just to create some interest. Kind of liking that. I like the angle of the land here, and then the sky's kind of at that angle.
Getting some thicker layers into the sky. Trying to create kind of a muted effect of where the two edges meet with the blue. Sort of thinking like impressionist kind of brush marks here and there on that edge. Trying to watch some strokes, make it interesting. Mix in some blue where I need to, let it mix with the white before. Now I'm strengthening some intensity of blue up in the upper part of the sky. So between all these combinations, gives a nice interesting look to the sky. Just a few strokes here and there to break up some edges. Create some variety in the cloud shape. Already has a sense of mood, which I really like the most, I think, so far in this piece. Excuse me. Laying in some stronger blue, cleaning up some edges. Always kind of morphing those edges of the clouds. Maybe I find something as it approaches in the sky that I like better. I don't do that too often because you don't want to be chasing clouds all day long. You want to try to stick with a plan, but if something better presents itself, I'll try to get it in there. A little bit of darks to have some difference in values. Now cutting around shapes to create the highlights by just adding dark around it. I like doing this a lot.
Now I'm just attempting to pull out, go back in with some darker values to pull out some lighter edges in this dark mass. Just a stroke or two, creating a shape in the front a little bit. And you'll create edges that are conducive, obviously, to what you're using for a brush. If you want softer edges, maybe more of a rounded filbert, which I do have here, but I'm just using this to get that in there to suggest different levels within the clouds. Now I'm trying to, obviously the sky has changed quite a bit, but now I'm just trying to make it a painting in terms of design. And it looks like I got a little creature trapped in the wet paint there. Poor little guy. See if I can save him. Nope. Caked with paint. Sorry. So, oh well. So I'm just trying to basically accentuate this lighter, this area in here, excuse me, by having some darker colors up here. Picks up the darks in the trees. Just trying to keep a light pressure on the brush as I apply the paint, and also the surface I'm working on is textured like canvas, so that's going to facilitate that also. Trying not to over blend. Now I'm going to create some lighter tones just in little areas. Try to suggest subtle highlights on the clouds. It's a very cloudy day, so that's what I'm attempting here, just in a few spots. Now to wrap up this little hour study here, just going to see how the palette knife does on this surface. I normally, as you know, paint on the 1/4 inch MDF or Masonite panels, but I've adhered, glued on a piece of canvas board, and like I said, I'll explain that later on. Just mixing up some green to get on there and see how I like it. Create some more, add to the texture that's already sort of there. Try to suggest grasses and such without, of course, painting them in there. With little flecks of paint, because I don't want to, you're seeing this from a distance a little bit, so you can't put in too much detail anyway, because it wouldn't be realistic to the scene. Trying to keep a little dark, have this be more lit, like maybe there's a shaft of a little bit of lighter tone coming through, and that'll bring your eye to that area. Just introducing a little burnt sienna into that green mixture to warm it a bit. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. Touch, just a touch of Cad Red. See if I can get a touch on there. Very subtle. I don't need much. Very strong color. Kind of liking that. Now I'm going to build up some of this where the light's hitting. Going to accentuate that more with a little bit of cobalt, Cad Yellow Pale. Nope, not quite. Getting a little more in there. Just a hint. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that for now. And just going to get a little bit of that trunk. See how the trunk is right touching the grass? I'm going to bring one of them down a bit. There's a little knoll on the hill there, right at that point. So I'm just going to bring that one there and this one just a little forward there. Try to break up that and ever so slightly of pale. You don't want to just plant it right in the ground like that, just breaking it up so it seems to be sitting a diffused shadow. And then there's one little, this is bugging me right there. Tone that down a bit. Get the paint out, get some paint, some cobalt. With white, knocking it down just a bit with some umber. A little better. Trying not to think it too much. This little bit in here, I'm gonna, like an impressionist, I'm just gonna kind of dab some of that, have it melt into that color, break up that area a bit. And this surface really facilitates this working pretty well. There. I think for this little study I'm going to call it good, and we'll pan around and show you what it looks like. Okay everybody, this is going to wrap up this little study. A 1 hour job. Light's changing a little too much, getting way brighter. So just wanted to have a little fun painting on a cloudy day, overcast day, and I like how it's coming out, and the surface I painted on. Might pick up some more of that stuff. I do have some canvas. I might do some panels and glue them, do up some panels with the canvas on them, because sometimes I don't like the springiness of the canvas. So we'll see, experiment. So thanks for joining me, and until the next adventure, bye. Okay, I'm back home doing the little critique of the painting I just did out in local college campus up in they have some land and back in the hills there. So very hard. Like I usually do a lot of sunny scenes when I paint plein air, so this was definitely meant to further my knowledge about painting on overcast and cloudy days, and on days where the activity in the sky is always changing. So very, very complex. That's why I usually work small when plein air, because it's more about just studying what's going on in color and to try to learn and that sort of thing. Eventually I would like to do bigger ones on location and address that later, but yeah, I like parts of this, other parts not so successful, but hey, that's the way it goes. Now what I did was used a panel, my 1/4 inch regular panels that I use, and I've attached, bought them at an art supply store. They're like 1/16 of an inch thick kind of canvas boards that I glued down to the 1/4 inch panel with some acid-free pH neutral glue. And I like how the brush drags, of course, on the surface without the springiness of the stretch canvas. Just different things to try. I have experimented with just taking some canvas, loose canvas that I used to stretch my own canvases. I still do, and in the past I've taken that and glued it to the board. But in trimming it, it can be, if you are not really careful, there can be discrepancies along the edge of the panel and the canvas, and it's doable, but this is much easier because these are nice, have nice clean edges already. Anyway, I'm going to pan in just a bit to see if you can pick up on details. I like the tree there. I will do some little more highlighting of leaves popping out towards the bottom there. Just kind of ran out of time, had to get home, and of course you can see where they kind of stop right along in there. I'll fix that, of course, but overall I like the mood I created. Paint application wise, I need to still work on that going forward, but live and learn. So I want to thank everyone for joining me for this plein air adventure. And again, if you're not a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe. And for everyone else, thank you for following my channel. I really appreciate it.